was one morning walk. I was invited by Satsrupa to go on a morning walk one morning in Dallas, and we went out, and there was a sign. We went into a nice subdivision of Dallas area, fairly well-to-do place, and there was one sign: "Beware of the dog." You know, so Prabhupada commented, "Beware of the dog." You know, and so everybody could understand he was talking about the man in the house, not the dog. So Prabhupada had this incredible sense of humor, a great sense of sarcasm sometimes, and that was one time it evidenced. As Gurukula closed down in Dallas, everyone knew they were going to move, and so I was in the position of like, okay, I was going to try to do another service. I was going to start looking for another service. I'd been doing Sankirtan there and temple cleaning and so forth, and so I started writing a proposal to the GBC about making films, and I put that together and passed it on to the GBC, and then GBC was non-committal, naturally, and so I started going directly to Prabhupada because the GBC just wasn't dealing with it, and I spoke with him in Vrindavan, and he was never very enthusiastic about my making films. I wrote him some letters, and he said, you know, Hitler and Napoleon, all these different people, you know, all made so much propaganda, and then what happened? Nothing happened, you know, it's they're over, they're finished. So he was just, he was emphasizing book distribution. And I tried to appreciate that, but I had studied film in college, and I was really, you know, determined and anxious. And I still write scripts today, but it was just not to be at that particular time. Anyway, I remember talking with Prabhupada about it, and I'd sent him a draft, an outline of a film, and Harisari said, "This is the boy who has sent you the draft," and the complete dismay on Prabhupada's face. It's like so devastating. It was so incredibly devastating, and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing? You know. At any rate, I continued to play with. One time, Prabhupada, actually in talking with Prabhupada, well, that was in Vrindavan. So I went on. Treya Rishi was the only person in the GBC who had encouraged me with the film making idea. So why don't you come to Iran and we'll, you know, get you a job there, and you can develop some skills and so forth. So I said, okay. He had, at that time, Navayovana was working with him, and Navayovana was into multimedia slideshows. So he thought, you know, then you could maybe partner up with him or something. So anyway, we went there, and Nav and I became friends. And then Prabhupada came to Iran. It was one of his last stops on his last tour of the world. He came to Iran, and he was there. And we were, you know, again, I presented the idea of the film and talked. I think that's where Prabhupada actually showed so much dismay. Anyway, and in Vrindavan, actually, he said, "Who is stopping you? Who is stopping you from doing this?" You know, and I could understand. He understood me very, very well. That I had my own limits, my own stops that were holding me back from doing what I supposedly said I wanted to do. So it was a very amazing experience. I had another experience in India. First time I came to India in '76 at the Delhi Pandal, and this is a very kind of comic experience with Prabhupada. I was always getting chastised by Prabhupada. It seemed like, you know, one time I went to sit down in Vrindavan, and Prabhupada gestured, you know, cover your feet, you know. So I covered my feet. And then another time I went to sit down, and before I even got down, he's, you know, gesturing again, cover your feet. You know, he remembered my faux pas. At any rate, in Delhi, a very strange thing happened. It was a big pandal, and Prabhupada went backstage at the end of the pandal. And I had been assigned to kind of, you know, one of the bodyguards, there are many of them, just to kind of keep the crowds back from. So as I was standing about here, these two girls from the side, you know, on my left, just kind of dove at Prabhupada's feet when he got to be about as far away as you are, you know, about, seemed like 6-8 feet or so. They just dove like dive bombers or something, you know, for Prabhupada's feet, which, you know, is the Indian thing. So Prabhupada was coming with quite an entourage behind him, and I thought, oh my gosh, these people are going to trip Prabhupada, and all these people are going to fall over Prabhupada. You know, it was like the weirdest story. And so I went down like this when these girls were diving, you know, like, you know, just hoping to kind of grab them in midair. I never even touched them. I never got, you know, close to them. But Prabhupada said, "Why are you pushing? Why are you pushing?" And I, God, you know, and I just, everybody stopped. Everything stopped, you know. They're talking about like 100 people back there, you know. And Prabhupada's looking at me, you know, just totally angry, totally upset. Why are you pushing? So every time I ever pushed anybody after that, I remembered that situation. And, oh my gosh, he was just giving me a warning or something. But I actually, there was no intention to push. I didn't push the girls. They just dove. And I was just trying to restrain, but it was useless. So anyway, I went to kind of a semi-conscious state, wandering around. And then Dayananda, I think it was Dayananda, came up to me and said, "Well, you really got the mercy. Wow, you really got the..." I thought, "Oh, is that what it was?" I was like relieved. Anyway, so many of these experiences, I guess there's, with the films and the dive bombers, the dive bomber devotees, and just the covering the feet thing, and letters about filmmaking and so on, and personal chastisements, the misconstrued massage, so all these things they just, Krishna just arranged. I guess I just had more intense false ego than anybody else, and he just arranged that I would get smashed by my spiritual master. And for some time I kind of took it in a negative way, especially when my sadhana started to slide a few years ago. I just started thinking, well, you know, it was like with the Smothers Brothers. Mom always liked you best, you know, he didn't like me that much, and you know, I made up a lot of stories, and but ultimately I can understand that that's my story, and that Prabhupada, the conclusion I came to after some soul searching, that Prabhupada really loved every one of his disciples, no matter what their faults were, their problems were, and that he wanted them to go back to Godhead, otherwise he wouldn't have bothered to come in the first place. And if he showed some exasperation with us, that was really quite good for us to try to get our act together a little better. And I just, I feel, you know, very, very blessed to have had Prabhupada's association in that way, you know. If he had just encouraged me or flattered me or something like that, I would have probably doubted his perceptions even more. You know how self-doubt works. Anyway, so he gave me such an incredible, life, all the things that I've been able to do in ISKCON, places I've been able to go, and just the basic service, the sadhana, the programs, the chanting, you know, everything, the association of devotees. Nobody could ever offer that, I don't think, to anyone else unless he was, you know, pure personality, totally pure personality. It's just not. It's not forthcoming from anyone who has any taint of greed or selfishness. So that's practically the glorification I have for Prabhupada, is that he was, for all of us, you know, he was such a wonderful beacon of light as to what, you know, what Krishna wants for us. Krishna wants us to reappear in the spiritual world too. And Prabhupada's concern and efforts show us that. I asked Prabhupada once on one of his visits to Dallas, I said, "How can we repay you?" And so Prabhupada just quiet for a minute, and then he said, "Oh, you can't repay me, but you should always feel very obliged, always feel very obligated." And so, you know, that's been, for me, that has been the thing in my life, even when I don't feel very confident in devotional service, or don't feel turned on about devotional service, or allow politics to get in the way and so forth, is that I still have that obligation to my spiritual master. And that responsibility, you know, is a perfect gift, actually, to feel that there is something important for one to do. I remember as a child feeling there's something very important I have to do in this life. I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is, but something, I'm going to do something that's going to be very important, you know. So that could translate into becoming successful in material sphere, or it could translate into becoming, you know, just a loving servant of Krishna, just on a simple, very simple level. And the thing that Prabhupada was such a simple person. His activities were so simplified. He didn't, you know, he didn't complicate his life with so much stuff. I remember seeing him once at Gurukula. The children had given him pictures of Krishna, and you know, their drawings. So he was looking through them, and I was thinking, well, these are really wonderful. They're pictures of Krishna from little pure devotees, and you know. And then Prabhupada just put them down and walked away, and he wasn't interested in taking anything. You know, he accepted things, but then he just distributed them again. He just never was the kind of mind I have is I'd take the picture and put it on the wall, you know, and so forth, and treasure it, all this stuff. But he was just going on and on and on. Everywhere he went, he was just constantly going through this exchange, accepting people's adulation, their worship, and then offering that to Krishna. And he was never bogged down by any of that. He never got overwhelmed by it. He never got his ego out of joint by doing those things. So those are the incredible impression I had of Prabhupada, is that he was a perfect living being, and that his desire was to make us also perfect in you know, our relationship with Krishna. Karuna Prachu